Hello there. Good to see you. Hey, so I did finally take my trip to Jamaica for the first time in my life. I've been wanting to go for quite a number of years, even though the last 2 years it's been more urgent, and I'll explain why. What motivated me to go quickly to Jamaica or go there sooner than I expected in my life. Yeah, but I did manage to make my trip about a week ago to Jamaica, and I bring you the thrills, the things that were really exciting that I saw. I went for two reasons. It was to visit or get involved in the history of Marcus Garvey. First of all, this was about Marcus Garvey first and foremost, and I explain why. And the second reason was Bob Marley. All right, it turned out that the Bob Marley aspect of my tour, of my journey, ended up being more exciting. But anyway, I did go. Now, some of you might be wondering, why did I go? Why was I interested to go and see Marcus Garvey's hall, Liberty Hall? They call it Liberty Hall, where the facts about his life are stored and his philosophies are taught and things like that. And they sell books there and different other things. Basically, it's a place where you can encounter the life of Marcus Garvey. Same thing with Bob Marley. I went to the Bob Marley Museum in Kingston, Jamaica. Jamaica is a beautiful country. Beautiful country. Of course, there's a lot of work to do. I had a few disappointments from what I saw. I don't want to use this term, but it had this third world look that I didn't like, and I didn't expect, actually. I didn't expect that. I expected much more of Jamaica, so that was more on the disappointing side. Other than that, it's a beautiful country, wonderful people. It's a place I'd love to go to again and again and again. But the reason I went to Jamaica, I was saying, is because most of you by now know that I've written a book entitled Beloved Hatred. It's not the only book I've written, but it's the only book so far on Amazon for various reasons that I don't want to get into right now. And then also coming up real soon is White Legacy, which has delayed a little bit, but it's coming out soon. And I'll be releasing details to that effect. But the reason I went to Jamaica to encounter the life of Marcus Garvey is because when I wrote my book Beloved Hatred, and then during my marketing stints here in the US, I came across a woman who, when she heard me speak about my book, she said, "It sounds a lot like Marcus Garvey." And at that point I said, "Who's Marcus Garvey?" And she looked at me like, "What? You don't know who Marcus Garvey is?" I said, "No, never heard of Marcus Garvey." And then she wrote down the name and said, "Go look him up." And lo and behold, when I went and looked him up, almost everything I was saying in the book are the things that Marcus Garvey was saying. And at some point, Marcus Garvey was advocating for African Americans to return to Africa, and we'll talk more about that in the future, which is why my book is subtitled An African American Exodus. And that was the message of Marcus Garvey. But he did say a lot of other things that we're going to talk about in this podcast, if you just stay tuned. So, just to let you know, I'd never learned about Marcus Garvey at any point in my school history. And I have a lot of friends who, in our conversations about liberators in Africa, like Kwame Nkrumah, Pan-Africanists, we never talked about Marcus Garvey. And a number of them, when I spoke to them after this, they didn't know who Marcus Garvey was. And so I was asking myself, why is it that I don't know an important personality such as Marcus Garvey? So I had to go and look for myself. But in the process of looking up Marcus Garvey, a lot of the things were tying to Bob Marley. And I soon found out Bob Marley was in many ways preaching the messages of Marcus Garvey, besides Haile Selassie. And we'll talk about Haile Selassie a little bit more because he is the father of the Rastafarian movement, or the Rastafarian religion, if you like, of which Bob Marley was a part of. All right, so Bob Marley we know was Rastafarian, but I found out some very, very, very interesting things during this tour. All right. Okay, so one of the things about Jamaica was I was greeted with "Yaman." The people there like to say "Yaman." So instead of saying yes, they say "Yaman." So every time I'll be having a conversation with someone, they would always say "Yaman." If they're agreeing with me, they'll say "Yaman." So I came back from Jamaica already in the habit of saying "Yaman." Thank God I'm alone. I'm not with Jamaicans or anybody like that anymore. So that can quickly come out of my mind. But I very quickly became a Yaman person. So it was very exciting. So the first location I visited was, and I lived on a street called Hope Road. And I'll show you, you'll be seeing some of the images in the background. You won't see, I probably might show you 3-4 videos, but we were not allowed to video at these two locations. I was alone in my entourage, by the way, but I did run into a number of people. I met people from Guyana, Argentina, Israel, France, Germany, different parts of the world, all coming to see the life and history of Bob Marley. At the Marcus Garvey Liberty Hall, I was alone because I traveled to Jamaica on a one-man mission to put these facts together and find out, do some finding out regarding these two people as far as Pan-Africanism is concerned. So at the Bob Marley Center, we're not allowed to video, but you know, as you're watching this, you'll be seeing different videos that I took even as I was approaching the center, the museum itself on Hope Road. I believe the location I lived in was, I'm forgetting names, that it was close to Halfway Tree. That was the location. And then, what was the location I lived in? It was, oh my God, I'm forgetting names. But anyway, yeah. So when we arrived there, I was already making videos. And then they were kind enough to let me keep what I had already put on video. And I was grateful to them for that leniency. They gave us the reasons. Reasons they gave was, you know, if we allowed people to video these things, I mean, these things will be all over social media and all of that. There won't be a need for people to come and see the physical thing, which is true. So this tour was really, really exciting. And we had a very, very interesting tour guide. His name was Jonathan, I believe. And he really made things extremely exciting. You need to fasten your seatbelt and hold on for some facts about Bob Marley that are coming real soon. So I had to tie myself to these two people because the very fact that they were championing Pan-Africanism or talking about social justice or justice in general, for me has been an exciting theme. And that's why I've been wanting to go to Jamaica to go and connect with these two people's lives. And obviously, like I said, in the process, I found out a few things, particularly about Bob Marley, that were really interesting. There are things that you would call scandalous, but they were really interesting things. As we got up and personal with Bob Marley himself, the tour guide doing a very, very good job taking us through the different parts of the house where Bob Marley lived for 6 years. Remember, Bob Marley was born in Trenchtown, and then he moved to some location, I forget what it was. And then eventually he ended up at this house. And then this is the house where he built a studio, very, very powerful studio, which is still there. And the mixer is still there, 21 channel mixer. It's still there. You can touch it, you can play it. The piano is still there. The guitars are still there. And his bedroom, we're going to come to his bedroom. That's where the secrets that I was talking about are with regards to the side of Bob Marley that you might call scandalous. I will get to that. We're going to get to Bob Marley's bedroom. It was interesting to hear some facts about what was going on or what went on in Bob Marley's life. Very interesting. Stay tuned for that one. But I want to deal with important issues first, especially with regards to Marcus Garvey. So Marcus Garvey, for those of you that might not know, Marcus Garvey is, I believe, especially those of us in Africa, or if you're Pan-Africanist, Marcus Garvey is a personality that we should all study and understand what he was talking about, understand his philosophies. There's a book called Marcus Garvey's, is it Ideologies and Philosophies? Something like that. It all talks about what Marcus Garvey was up to. I ran into a lady at the airport when I was leaving Kingston, Jamaica. And she's an elderly lady, I think in her mid-60s, thereabout. And we got into a conversation. She was asking me what I came to do and why, you know, she picked up my accent, where you from, and blah, blah, blah. Got into a conversation. And she was of the opinion that Marcus Garvey was ahead of his time. And that I found that really, really interesting. She said Marcus Garvey was ahead of his time. And it got me thinking, what does that mean? But to cut the story short, I ended up concluding that, you know, it could have been a divine plan for a man like Marcus Garvey to walk the face of the earth and provoke certain things that others would run with, which is why he lived ahead of his time. Because really, when you think about it, the things that Marcus Garvey talked about, I think even at the time, they were difficult for many people to understand at the time. He was just so advanced in his ideologies and philosophies, right? And I feel, and for me personally, it's not a coincidence that I wrote a book that ended up talking about things that Marcus Garvey was talking about, or ended up confirming Marcus Garvey's philosophies, even though I didn't know about Marcus Garvey. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make you understand why now I had to go to Jamaica and walk in the footsteps of Marcus Garvey, which would include Bob Marley? And I would explain why Bob Marley, because some of you might be thinking, oh, maybe I'm becoming Rastafarian. No, that's not what it means. This is about social justice, all right? And again, I want to say something before I forget. Even as I looked at the life of Bob Marley, I am touched by how a man such as Bob Marley, being a Rastafarian, who most Christians or Pentecostals or believers, tongue-speaking believers, would look at as a person who is lost, all right? As a person who is lost. But it has really touched my heart to see how a man like that would be so concerned about the problems of humanity, about social injustice, and take it up so firmly, so fervently, so passionately. And yet today's church doesn't talk about social injustice. We just tell people to pay tithe and offering, and then God will work. We don't confront social injustice. I believe that the reason I was inspired to write this book, and many other books that are going to come with regards to the same theme, is because it was a wake-up call for me and those who would be like-minded, that you have to confront social justice. The central theme of the Bible or the gospel is justice. He says in the book of Isaiah, let justice reign like righteousness. Let justice reign like righteousness. So it really baffles me that a man like Bob Marley would confront social injustice or injustice the way that he did, making an impact that is even bigger than all churches put together. And we need to have a conversation about that, because that is serious. And that's why I have this interest in Marcus Garvey. But personally, I believe it's not a coincidence that I was inspired to write a book that would sound like Marcus Garvey, and yet I don't know who Marcus Garvey was. Now, as you see some of the images that I'm showing behind there, you note that some of the pictures aren't very good, particularly the ones I took at the Marcus Garvey Liberty Hall. In my view, they need to do a little bit more work with regards to the environment, the property itself, the facility. One of the things in there was that it was dark. The lighting is poor inside there. I don't know if it's deliberate. It's a small little hall. Now, I don't know if this is deliberate because they want to preserve the culture. I really don't know. But I just felt like the facility wasn't really up to date. It wasn't modern. All right. Like I said, maybe they're preserving the culture. I really don't know. And as I say this, I want you to know I did have conversations with people in authority over there. And we talked about my book. We talked about what we could do in the future. So I expect to have collaboration with those people in the future. God willing, these plans will work. These things are a lot of work to put together and to execute the plans. We can have the plans, but the execution is a whole different ball game altogether. So please keep me in prayers, all right, as we talk about this. And I'll keep you informed with all these things. Some of you are going to become active along with me and many others who are rising up as Africa is rising, all right? So I was saying that for me to write a book that champions the ideologies of Marcus Garvey is not a coincidence. And these are the same ideologies and philosophies that Marcus Garvey had in common with people like Kwame Nkrumah and many other African leaders such as Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso, and different other leaders that we're going to be talking about here. Marcus Garvey had an impact on all of those people's lives, and all of them saw eye to eye. Marcus Garvey, his efforts filtered into the liberation of Africa, and then we saw Africa begin to have independence, the first being Ghana. And Ghana, a lot of Jamaicans I met in Jamaica, in Kingston, were talking about how they have roots in Ghana. One of the persons I spoke to told me about how he knows that many Jamaicans know more about Africa than Africans know about the Caribbeans and the islands. And I found that really interesting, and I admit that I'm one of those. I didn't know much about the Caribbeans, and he was talking about how so many Africans have been spread on these islands in the Caribbeans and Jamaica and these other small remote places that we in Africa don't know about. And it left me with a desire to find out more, and it confirmed also a desire I've always had to go to the Solomon Islands, which I make a pledge to go, and God willing, I will go. But Jamaica is a place I want to go back to time and time and again. There's a lot more work to do. As we did the tour in the Bob Marley Museum, the guide actually advised me that next time I'm in Jamaica, because I only went to Jamaica for 2 days. It was a quick visit. I just said, if I keep missing these chances, I probably will end up never going. But now that I've gone, I can actually put off certain things on my schedule and do Jamaica again, because of the importance that it now has from the things that I saw and much more work that needs to be done. Yeah, so I was saying that the guide advised me to do a combo tour, because apparently there's another location where Bob Marley did a lot more work. This house, which has been turned into a museum, of course, is about 30% of Bob Marley's life. And he told me that there's a house, I think it's called, I forgot the name. I'll put the picture on, you'll be able to see. The tour guide had the name written on the sleeve of his t-shirt, and I'll put that up because I've forgotten what it is. There was so much information, you guys. Even when we just entered into the living room and then we were given the introduction, this was a 2-hour tour, packed with information. We were not allowed to do videos or record anything. So you can imagine, we didn't even have time to write notes because there was so much information, and this guy was just going on and on and on and on and on. There was so much. And it's unfortunate I can't show you videos, but I'll show you as many pictures as I can. All right? So I need to go back and do a combo tour of all the locations that Bob Marley worked in. All right? Now, in the next video, I'm going to take you into Bob Marley's bedroom. And after that, actually, I might even do it before I take you into the bedroom, I need to talk about Bob Marley's songs. Because a lot of us have listened to Bob Marley's songs and we just take them as songs. But he says some really, really strong things in those songs. He was bringing out Marcus Garvey's philosophies in some of the songs. One of the things we were told during the tour is that wherever Bob Marley performed, he always had Marcus Garvey and Haile Selassie in the backdrop. Always. So he was always projecting the messages of these two people. And so we need to understand what the messages of these two people was. For me, you can have qualms about it or question marks or whatever it is. But for me, the very fact that these two people, Marcus Garvey, Haile Selassie, were about social justice. They were about justice. Oh my God, there's a lot that I can say, and there's a lot I need to share with you. But the fact that their heartbeat was social justice. The fact that their heartbeat was social justice. And this is what Bob Marley was putting in his strings. Is really exciting. And the part of the reason I'm doing this is because that's what has become my heartbeat. It's social justice. People everywhere around us have suffered enough. So when you hear lines like, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, it's not something to take lightly. And in the time that we are in, there's a bigger demand to put that into action. So there's really a lot to break down here. So I will be talking about Bob Marley's music and how it's supposed to be a message that we carry. Bob Marley literally sent out a battle cry. A battle cry. And we have to take it up. We have to start blowing the trumpets for social justice. That's what I'm about. That's why I'm connected to this. That's why I'm doing this. All right? So, let me leave you here. I still have a lot more to offload regarding Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley himself, and I will come back. And I promise I'm going to take you into Bob Marley's bedroom. You don't want to miss that. There are two things that stood out. There should be about 4 things that I'll talk about that happened in that bedroom, but 2 things stood out. They might even shock you. There are things you probably have never heard, but I'm going to bring them out and let you know. And like I said, depending on the flow, I might do a video that talk about the songs that Bob Marley did, how they connect to the philosophies of Marcus Garvey, and how personally I feel that they affect my life, they affect my mission for the rest of my life, and how they've changed my life, but more especially how those things have become my personal mission. And remember, I did not start doing these things because I knew Marcus Garvey or because I studied Marcus Garvey. I started doing this work. I started talking about these things because it was divine inspiration. And then I find that people like Marcus Garvey, Bob Marley, Haile Selassie were equally divinely inspired. So that's why I'm doing this. It's a personal thing. So we need to get into the details of those songs and pick out. I mean, think about Bob Marley's song about redemption songs. Redemption songs. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free ourselves. None but ourselves can free ourselves. Think about those things. So unfortunately, we've become numb to injustice. We've become numb to social justice. We just think that these things are normal. We've normalized injustice in many ways that we don't even see. And it's time to wake up. That's why I'm talking about the things I'm talking about. But let me leave it here for now. We're going to go into Bob Marley's bedroom. And like I said, I don't know which direction I'll go. I don't know what sequence I'll take, whether I'll talk about the bedroom first and talk about the songs, or talk about the songs first and talk about the bedroom. But both of these are really very, very exciting because they're going to teach us a lot. I thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next one. Yeah, man.